I teach people to think, write, and read critically, and to contemplate fundamental issues of human existence, such as, does God exist? Who am I? And what's morally right and wrong? These soft skills, they don't get a lot of love lately, especially from politicians. In fact, they have a bad name. They're soft. They're the fluff that might be fun to do, but are not really part of the essential skills needed to navigate the 21st century. In fact, I've heard this since I started my journey in philosophy. The summer before I went to graduate school, I decided to play golf with my father, a friend, and we played 3 days, morning and night. And each time we played, we would pick up a fourth golfer. And every time, it was the same thing. I'd say, "Hi, I'm Andy, nice to meet you." And he'd say, "Yeah, so what do you do?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm a graduate student in philosophy." And he'd reply, "Oh, so what are you going to do with that?" 6 times. And no, I wasn't learning specific job skills, such as going to law school or getting a nursing degree. I was being told I was learning these general soft skills that weren't going to help me get a job and really not help me in life. And society has been very focused on jobs. Probably since our last recession, and due to our last recession, there's been an increased focus on job training and technical skills. And I do think we need job training and people who are well-trained. We need well-trained welders, accountants, nurses, and truck drivers. Soft skills, on the other hand, are thought to be unteachable, unmeasurable, and not very important. I want to take the knots out of that statement. I want to show that they're teachable, measurable, and they're very important. These are the skills that actually we need to navigate the 21st century. So what are soft skills? There's the skills of problem solving, thinking creatively, communicating clearly and sensitively, and acting ethically by accepting responsibility, showing respect, and building trust. And in survey after survey, employers say that these are the skills that they want most in their employees. And I think we can see why for a couple of reasons. One, we have a much more service-based economy than we used to. And so human interaction is much more important. And second, we find that people throughout their lives change careers 5 to 7 times. So we shouldn't just be training people for their first job. We should be training them for their 5th and 6th careers. And soft skills are those transitional, transferable, foundational skills that work for any job and most any career. And let's not forget that the recession was not caused by a lack of hard skills. It was caused because there were thousands of bankers, bundlers, mortgage brokers, and advisors who acted self-interestedly while millions suffered. The best trained people in the room are not always the best people to run a company or lead society. We need our welders, accountants, doctors, and yes, even bankers to be virtuous persons. And these soft skills, I think they are learnable as well. We teach these skills every day when we tell our children to say thank you and have them act ethically. We teach them to use their imagination. Even when we just say to kids, you should just be kids, we're encouraging them to act creatively. Arts and humanities classes throughout our educational system help students to have a creative and critical mind, write clearly, and build a strong character. Are they succeeding in doing so? I think there might be some evidence to show that they are. What we find is that arts and humanities majors actually do start a little lower with their first job when it comes to pay. But as their careers go on, over their lifetime, they earn more money than most other professional and practical degrees. In fact, in a 2012 survey of 100 of the largest companies in the United States, they found that 60% of CEOs had degrees in the humanities. Creative and critical minds are natural entrepreneurs, and employers want such people to be leaders in their business. But it shouldn't just be about jobs. The Greek philosopher Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. And his student Plato thought that education should enhance the whole person. A person should learn math, science, music, art, and philosophy to pursue the truth and the good. These skills allow a person greater freedom to think for herself and to have a more fulfilled life. Our ordinary, mundane lives become richer with art, music, dance, and theater. And we learn to think for ourselves with philosophy and language. Even in ancient Greece, there was a divide over why the humanities were important. Some, such as Plato and Aristotle, thought that these subjects were to be studied because they're good in and of themselves. We study the humanities to discover the truth. Others thought that the subject allowed a person to be more employable and a better citizen. So how do we decide who's right? The quick answer is, I think they're both right. That by studying these subjects directly, in order to get the truth, we actually have the side effect that they benefit the person and the community. I think we can see this by connecting to the hedonic paradox. Hedonists believe that the only intrinsically good thing is happiness. But many hedonists, such as Sedgwick, found that the best way to achieve that end is not to go directly at it. So the person who wakes up in the morning and says, "My goal today, I'm going to be happy," isn't likely to achieve it. But the person who wakes up and says, "I'm going to be a good spouse, I'm going to do well at work, and I'm going to be a good ethical person," has the side effect of being happy. And I think we can say the same thing about soft skills when it comes to jobs. If you study the humanities and arts directly in order to figure out what's true, you'll have the side effect of getting a job and a career. I think sometimes we do need to obviously directly think about jobs. But if you do focus on soft skills, you will have the effect in the long run of a good career and employment. And why is this the case? Why does it end up having that side effect? Well, it's because those who are intellectually curious and love to be creative and solve problems to discover what's true do better. Such people love talking to others and interacting to discover more truths. It's this zest for knowledge and love of learning that employers want so much and is the foundation of entrepreneurship. Education also, though, is about educating and developing citizens for our great democracy. Plato and Socrates, they were right to think that a well-functioning society needs virtuous, creative problem solvers with a broad-based education. The problem was, they didn't think this was for everyone. They thought it was only for a select few. We can do better than this. We need to emphasize the importance of these skills for all jobs and all people. If we want a good workforce, And if we want a well-functioning society, we need people who can think on their own, work as a team, communicate clearly, challenge authority when necessary, think creatively, and act virtuously. Employers are smart wanting these skills, and we should be equally smart in promoting them for society. Let me tell you a modern story to help show why I think these skills are so important. About a dozen years ago, I was lucky enough to go to a small country of Swaziland in southern Africa on a study tour. And Swaziland is one of the last pure monarchies, so the king's in charge of everything. And I went to the University of Swaziland, and when I first arrived, I went to a talk by a history professor. And he gave a talk on the history of the monarchy. And after his talk, I went up to talk with him, asked him a couple questions about his lecture. And then I said to him, hey, I was wondering if you could help me out. While I'm here, do you think you could connect me with one of the philosophy professors here? And he said to me, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I said, oh, okay. He said, well, the problem is we don't teach philosophy here. He said, the king outlawed it in 1976 because he didn't want fertile minds questioning his authority. And I think that's exactly why we need these skills today. I don't think we should be listening to the king of Swaziland on this issue. I think we should be listening to Martin Luther King, who said we need more philosophers that act like non-violent gagflies, who are willing to create a tension in society and keep our leaders in check. Good citizens are willing to challenge abuses, whether those abuses happen in the boardroom or in the polling booth. So contrary to politicians and many golfers, it appears that you can do a lot with these soft skills. But given their importance, I think we need to rename them. They should no longer be secondary. They should be on top. Let's call them CAP skills. Critical, artistic, and personality skills. So if you want a community that reflects the values that you'd like to see, and if you want a robust economy, I encourage all of you, from business, education, government, and other areas, to put your thinking cap on. Thank you.